Welcome into the Recipe Podcast, Celebrity Secrets to a Successful Life. I'm your host, Chef Charles Carroll. What a great day. What a great show we have for you today. We have something really special. This is a special episode, and we have a lot of good friends in studio from all around the world, and I want to get right into it. But before we do, Jay, we're going to get right into our sponsors real quick so we can get that out of the way and we can have some fun. We want to talk about Dunkin' Coffee. Mills Dunkin' is a great guy who will grind any special blend of coffee you want for hotels or clubs. And he also has an amazing line of tea for you, and it's really, the tea is the best in the world, so make sure, it's called Dilma Tea, so make sure you look him up, Dunkin' Coffee, D-U-N-C-A-N. Also, we have Aceway Incorporated, some good friends, Ricardo, Ace Vito, he's a good guy, and he'll clean anything from office buildings to kitchens, and that's why we love him. Customer service is amazing. Texas Beef Council, we love them because they love chefs, and if you don't like beef, there's something wrong with you. And the Escoffier School of Culinary Arts, they have an amazing online program there. An American Culinary Federation, we're actually packing our bags as we speak. We're heading to Florida to do an on-location podcast there with all our friends, about 2,000 chefs there, and some really surprise guests. So make sure you tune in to that show, or look for those shows, because we got some celebrities coming for that, and it's going to be pretty crazy. So without further ado, this episode is about fascia, and if you remember, we did a show on fascia. It was 99, and we did it the 99 show. I think we're up around 140 something now, Monica. So if you, after listening to this show, make sure you go back to listen to that one, because I thought that was fantastic. But before I go around the horn, I want to say hey to Monica for coming in and making this happen. Say hey, Monica. Hey. And we got Jay. Everything cool, Jay?
Yes.
That a boy. All right. So it appears that everything is working. So let's get started. Terrell, please introduce yourself, the lovely and talented and amazing woman that you are. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Chef. Yeah, my name is Terrell Carroll. I am a fitness instructor, a Pilates instructor at the River Oaks Country Club, and I am so excited to have this great bunch of ladies here today. I think some of the most talented Pilates and fascia specialists that I know. But yeah, we have three of us in the studio plus me, so I'm going to introduce Laura next. Yeah.
Laura Hampton. I'm from Houston as well, and I teach at River Oaks Country Club as well. I've been teaching for over 15 years, and when I met Karin, it transformed the way I teach, the way I approach just about everything in life. So I'm excited to be here and hear what she has to say.
Super.
I'm Jo Ulrich. I have a studio Pilates Treehouse here in Houston, and I'm on the faculty for the Center for Spatial Medicine. So I am very happy to be here and have Karin here. She always kind of keeps me in line and makes sure I'm on the right track when I work with students, and in her workshops, getting to assist her as well.
Now, do you actually do Pilates in a treehouse? Is that true? Is that a true story?
I think you have to define treehouse.
Oh, well, isn't that's what you said, right? Pilates in a treehouse?
Pilates treehouse, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I would have to come see you to find out.
Yeah.
Which
absolutely.
is in Houston.
It is in Houston. It's
Super.
in the Heights. It's very woody there, so.
Yeah, we love the Heights.
We do.
And our special guest.
Hi, I'm Karin Locher, and thank you for having me here in the studio again. It's lovely to be here with these great women here. So yeah, I've come back into Houston, and I try to be here maybe once or twice a year to support Joyce in her faculty work and all the students that we have here, and bring new workshops and all the new updated information on the fascia system. So I founded Center for Spatial Medicine, and we take workshops and trainings and courses around the world. And then we have faculty teachers who work with the students who want to go deeper and actually qualify and train and learn more. So that's who we are. And this weekend we've just spent 3 days here in Houston with a group of people, and we were looking at how the influence of touch and vibration affects the fascial tissue. Now, the fascia is the largest system of the body, and it touches all other systems and connects and communicates with all other systems. So without the fascia, the other systems don't organize, don't connect, and don't communicate. So it's been largely missed for many, many, many years, and we're just discovering the importance of this seemingly rather chaotic tissue that is everything in the body. And more and more, I was just at the Fascia Research Congress last year. They have one every 3 years, and more information is coming out, and every time they have to create a new consensus, and they have to update the information because they're finding out so much about it.
Now, where was that convention, and how many people were there?
Well, that was in Berlin.
Berlin.
There was about 2,000 people.
Wow.
And the next one's in Montreal in 2021.
Wow.
And they're getting bigger and bigger. And the beautiful thing is, actually, you would think that if you go to a fascia research congress, it would be full of researchers, but it was full of practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
It was full of people who work with their bodies, work with health, work with the tissue every single day. And they were looking to finally get evidence from all the things that they've kind of sensed in the past, or come across or found in kind of clinical research, and now it's coming through mainstream, and it's coming into research, and we can actually start to really talk about it and be taken seriously, and it's being listened to. So it's the largest organ of the body. It's completely interwoven with the nervous system. We can't separate the two, and it acts 7 times faster than the nervous system. Because it's so water-based, which means that the information can travel so much faster. And it is affected by the nervous system. So whether our nervous system is high in what we call the sympathetic mode, where we're in alert, or we're in fright, we're in fight mode, the tissue stiffens, which is why many of us will have repeatedly stiffened tissue, because we tend to be in that state most of the time, just living in the 21st century. Even if it's not really happening in our life, our minds are in that fear-based alert state. And when we go down into the parasympathetic state, nervous system, it's the only place where any healing and recovery can happen. And the tissue releases, and the systems can start to organize again. So we were working this weekend with noticing where our own system is set, so that we can start to be aware and be conscious of where is our nervous system, which means where is our tissue state, what is our tissue state, and how that's affecting the rest of our physiology. And then not only does it affect our tissue, but if I'm in a sympathetic nervous state, your tissue is going to start changing before I've even touched you. And that's what they're even calling in the research congress the coherence phenomena, or entanglement is another word for that. And resonance is often used for that. And so the teachers and the practitioners were really learning how to gauge where their system is set, and how that was then influencing the person they were working on. And they could tell the immediate difference when we had techniques to bring our own system down, and then suddenly the tissue in front of them, the person had completely started to change and release and mold and soften. And so that suddenly brought up a different responsibility for the teacher or therapist, but also a huge potential in how they can start to help their clients by being aware of themselves. And that was a key point of one of the weekend, as well as learning different ways of touching, manipulating, and different types of tissue, because we have different types of tissue, and how to target the different types for different reasons. So they weren't all manual therapists at all. Many of them were just yoga students themselves, not even teachers.
Any doctors there?
No, not this time. We have had psychotherapists and doctors in workshops before, not this weekend. We had physiotherapists.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant at the conference.
Oh, at the conference, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
There are doctor surgeons.
Yeah. I'm just curious if they're...
Yeah, absolutely. And many are embracing this news, and many are slightly waiting for more research, maybe slightly threatened by the fact that we can change things in the body in different ways now. We don't always have to reach for medication. We don't have to reach for knives for surgery. There are other ways in which we can do things, which is very exciting.
Well, I have a bunch of questions, but I think the question would be better if it came from the experts around the table. So, Terrell, I don't know if you want to jump in here, and then we can...
It's amazing that, so in your workshop it was basically touching and finding release. Of course, you have to be in a state of relaxation yourself, and then use your hands to touch.
Yeah,
And
and what was really important is that the practitioner, teacher, or therapist isn't the one that's actually changing the tissue. They creating an environment, and the client or patient is the one that changes. So the body changes the tissue itself.
Mhm.
So you're not going in and reconstructing something.
No.
You literally provide an environment, and the tissue changes under that environment, depending what that is. And that was very important for people to realize, because I think anybody working with the body, whether it's in movement, in training, hands-on is very intuitive to us, to put our hands on for proprioception. And when we start to realize actually the power of what can happen underneath our hand and what is happening anyway, because the tissue's always listening to what's going on outside of them to adapt. And we have to have this adaptability for our survival. I mean, you know, we're just so responsive. The body just responds. It's hardwired to respond. It has no choice. It's going to respond. So when we can suddenly think, okay, so it's going to respond anyway, so let's ask it to respond in a particular way that's more useful than the more unconscious ways that it's responding that we don't even realize and notice. So it's a higher level of awareness of what's happening to your tissue from your environment and from your interaction with people and from the way that you live and from your habits and and very much from your thinking. And that's what we're going to explore in February when I come back, Mind Over Fascia, which is actually how you're thinking. Well, the thinking will set up the nervous system anyway. I mean, if I look here and I could interpret that as a snake, and my thinking would create a whole shift in my physiology for survival. Or I could see it as a piece of wire, and that's a completely different response again. So how the thought process, whether it's a fear-based thought or whether it's a more loving-based thought, sets up your physiology. And that then becomes ease or dis-ease, depending on how long that is prolonged in the body.
we just talked about it today, when we have knee replacements and, you know, anytime that they cut the fascia, how does that
How does
control
that
it from
affect the system?
body? The system itself. The fascia doesn't grow. I mean, it detached to something else. Is that how it works?
Well, I mean, the body's
Or-
self-correcting,
Okay.
self-organizing, self-healing. You know, you do cut in it and it recovers. I mean, all this happens. It's we call it the
But
invisible operator
Yeah.
that does all this stuff for us, you know, the invisible
But
healer.
even with whole new body parts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it does, but what you're going to get is you're going to get scar tissue.
Yeah.
And scar tissue is actually far more damaging than we think, only because fascia is a distribution system and fluid distribution, information distribution. Where there is scar tissue, that information and distribution gets blocked. It's like a road down suddenly. And then we have to have all this compensation. So there's a whole area of the body that's not being fed the information, so it goes into a disassociated state, or it goes into a weak state. You know, muscles won't do anything until they have fascial information. So if they're not able to receive that fascial information because it's blocked somewhere along the line, we experience them as totally weak. They're non-functioning. They're just waiting to be told what to do,
Okay.
because they don't do anything until they're told. Yeah.
But in your work, you have found ways to deal with the scar tissue to help create a better communication system and distribute the load again. And
Yeah, you can absolutely, and the sooner you work with it, the better. And if you have a chance before you even go in for surgery to make sure that the tissue is very healthy and hydrated, it has a much better chance afterwards of responding. So the better the tissue is before surgery, the sooner you can start working on the tissue to start to bring the hydration back and start to break up the scar tissue so that it can start to, and you can recover it. The body's, incredible in that way. It can be recovered.
Yeah, some has to come back in again to remove the scar tissue because it doesn't, nothing happens. I've heard several people have had to do that. Yeah.
And then you're creating
More scar
a new
tissue.
scar tissue
More
to
scar
remove it.
tissue,
But
yeah,
you
but-
might do a better job at least
Yeah.
the second time if you're more aware of it. Do you know what I mean? You might clean it up a little
But
bit.
not
So-
everybody is aware of it. you
well,
know,
no.
as a
I mean, we only
client.
know what we know at any one time.
Yeah.
So people don't know about it. So why would you think about it? You know, they don't realize that this little fine stuff all over the body is so important. They've only just recognized the importance of that. So, you know, we're evolving into recognizing it. We're suddenly noticing something we never noticed before. And
It's
how you
amazing.
look
It's
determines
so
what you
fascinating.
see, and that's what they're realizing. They keep looking in a different way and seeing something different. And we used to think that it was nice and organized, in nice lines and organization, and it helped our kind of, Newtonian thinking, which is nicely kind of controlled. And, there are no layers. There's only as many layers as you've got tools. You can keep separating it. It goes on and on and on and on. And, to our mind or vision, it's a chaos. It's a very organized chaos, because look what it does for us. It keeps us alive, and it organizes us. But we're just trying to look in and find some organization there that we can comprehend.
Yeah.
And that's a growing process, yeah.
Absolutely.
What was fascinating actually at the Congress, which rocked my world a little bit, or just gave me a lot of yes and conviction, was the information on the cardiofascia system, the heart fascia system. And that's what we spent time over the weekend with, looking at stimulating the pericardium, the tissue around the heart, and how there's a cardio-postural system. So your posture and your gait are also influenced by the spiral rhythm of your heart. And so when you have to consider that when there is even a knee problem or a postural problem or a gait problem, because it could be coming right, the cause could be right in that first heart spiral, which is in the left lobe of the heart. So making sure that there's no adhesions and that's available will really help the outer spiral, which walks us, function better.
Now, is there any X-rays? Like if someone was able to look at an X-ray and say, I think you could, and then they could recognize that there's an issue there, and they could send you to someone like yourself who could work with that. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, can you identify it on an X-ray and then recommend your treatment?
Fascia is very difficult to identify because most X-rays, you get the bony X-rays.
Right,
you can see the tissue. You can see tissue on the CT scan and things like that. But what they will do, if they understand that so many of our compressional problems, or what looks like a bone compression problem, is actually coming from the surrounding tensional tissue. If they know that, they can then think, well, actually, you don't need surgery, you need to go and organize your...
Right.
There's a lot of people out there walking around with compressed or bulging discs that don't have pain. So the ones that are in pain is where that tissue is pinching down on a nerve. But that doesn't, So when you go into the spine and you see the bulging disc, you're thinking that's the problem. But actually it's not. It's the surrounding tissue that is squeezing down on the nerves and the blood vessels. Now our job is to melt that off the nerves and the blood vessels, and so that there's no pain, because the bulging disc is only at pain if the nerves are pinched. So that's how we can free that sort of pain up.
So, Joe, I'm going to throw the mic to you, but I'm thinking, so it's almost, I'm trying to think, I know nothing about this, and most of my listeners, except for the really good ones who listened back in the first show, how do I identify how I can get help? So it's almost sounds like it's a symptom, like, oh, this hurts or this aches or this is bothering me. Maybe I can fix it through fascia treatment. Is that right? I mean, so if something's bothering me, I can first go, talk to one of you guys and say, is this something that you can treat? Is that
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
And also a lot of people are using it who are athletes who are looking to enhance performance because they found all this elasticity. And the same thing, if the tissue's too thick and stiffened around the elasticity, you feel stiff. If we can free that up, the elasticity becomes more available, and you start to get all that available elastic recoil function, which gives you a really high performance in your running and in your times and things.
A lot of our sports teams in America have everything. Like the football team that's just starting up now, they have every resource known to mankind, technologies and everything. Do you think that they're using this kind of treatment, or are they using it without knowing it, or do they think they have some experts on it seems to me they should. Right?
Yeah, I know some teams that do. I mean, I know that there are some physiotherapists who are working with fascia. I don't know at the extent at which they're now, if they're updated with the extent of what this means and what it can do for them. And I think hopefully more and more and more people will want to get more fascia orientated exercise and movement. But it is a buzzword now. Everybody is curious who's curious in their profession, and if they're working with performance or injuries or recovery or anything, if they don't know about the fascia, they're really not listening.
Right.
Because it's out there, and it's just a matter of when they decide to get involved or when they decide to realize, okay, this is something I can't miss out on. I need to update. I mean, all the anatomy needs to be updated and upgraded. We all need an update on everything, an upgrade.
So, Joe, how would you want to jump in here with a question or a statement, or how do you want to add to what's already been said?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's all been said pretty well.
Yeah.
The more we can open the body. I mean, oftentimes people think that there's an injury and that something's not strong enough. And I think that changing the way people think about that is a huge step in the right direction. Oftentimes when something is seen as weak by someone who's assessing someone with pain, it's often busy doing the wrong job. And Karin said before, really, muscle doesn't do anything until it receives a message from fascia. One of the important things, though, often is that muscle doesn't know when to let go. Like, its job is done. And sometimes we hold those patterns chronically, and we don't even know it, whether it's because of a horrible conversation they've had, and they're still holding on to that conversation in themselves emotionally, or they have had a pain, and they think the only way to make it go away is to hold on to the pain muscularly, and really what the fascia then will follow the muscles information on that. And what we really need to do is learn how to let that go so that muscle doesn't ever really hold us, it only moves us. Fascia is what holds our structure, and we need to let it do its job.
Well, I mean, I could totally relate to that right now. Honey, what else? Do you have anything you want to jump in on with a question? Or
as I said, like, that's not always if you have a pain in your neck, it doesn't have to come from your neck. It's related to other
stresses or
things
whatever.
that can come. So, Laura, you have an example?
One of the things that I was so amazed about this work when I first started learning about it was it's not very fancy. It's really more. It's more or less. You're doing less. You're tightening less. You're thinking less about how to move, and instead letting the smart body take over, which in itself is a lesson many people have to learn, is how to let go. And as I mentioned before, that kind of starts to affect every aspect of your life, not just your physical, but your spiritual and your emotional as well. Just learning to more be than do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I know I asked this before, but so the person listening out here can relate to the stress or the tense, being tense, or a boss that's coming down on them hard and they bring it home to work, or all of that. How can they get treated through this treatment? How can they can look up? I mean, but they need somewhere to start. I mean, because we talked about there's not any storefronts that.
No, not yet. We have four, actually, no, it's including Joyce, and we have like 16 trained people in and around Houston from Center for Spatial Medicine.
Okay.
So they can look on the website, and they're listed as people who have gone through the training and
Go ahead and give
qualified.
that website.
It's www.centerforspatialmedicine.com. Spatial, ATIAL, medicine.com.
And it's the British Center spelling.
Correct.
CNTRE.
Thank you. Yes, it's the British Center spelling. So, any one of those will be able to help anybody who's got chronic stiffness, chronic pain. They've tried everything. Things aren't working. It's not going away. Really look up somebody on our find a teacher, find a practitioner list. And there's a lot of, you're very blessed here. You've got a lot of great people who are working with this work and making a tremendous difference. And anybody who trains with the fascia is forever busy because it really works. And so people are just always, wanting to get in to see them. It really does change a lot of bodies, minds, lives.
Well, you've been busy since we last talked. Tell everybody what you've been up to and where your travel has brought you.
Gosh, I'm just trying to think when the last time I was in Houston. It was last October, wasn't it? We had just had the faculty there. We're doing a lot in Spain at the moment, so we have programs running in Ibiza, workshops and programs there, and in Madrid. And we've been also doing more in Zurich and in cities around Zurich. We're going this year, I'm going into Germany and Austria for the first time, and we're going into Italy and Hong Kong, and I'm looking also at Japan later next year. So that will be interesting. And we do things in the Middle East, where I'm based in Dubai in the Middle East. So people often fly out and they spend 3 or 4 days with me to really get to the bottom of something that's been bothering them for a long time, or they finally want to make a change. So they come out and they do an intensive with me for 3 or 4 days in Dubai.
All right, so give me an example of that. That's what I hear. So and because that person's in Dubai, nobody knows who that is. You don't have to use their name, obviously. But tell me what that person gets off the plane. They come to see you.
Yeah.
Tell us about those 3 days.
So the first thing that I will do when somebody, depending, I mean, some people come because they want to change a life circumstance. Other people will come because they're in chronic pain and they're just sick of, they can't deal with their pain. Often those two go together as well. So the first thing I will do when somebody comes through is I will always look to notice where is their nervous system set. Have they been in a chronic survival sympathetic mode or not? And usually if they're in a lot of pain, they have been, because the body's not designed to stay in that state, and it starts to wear and tear and go into problems or disease. I get a lot of illness coming as well. So the first thing that I do, I normally first, by giving them a fascial bodywork treatment, just to bring their system down and just to settle the system, settle the pain, let them have that sense that there's a possibility of this feeling better, so that they can work with that. And then we start to...
What does that consist of? Is that almost like a massage type of
that's them on a table
Okay.
and me releasing some of their tension and tissue so that they can feel themselves in a different state.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that they can say, oh my God, it is possible that this tension can go, or this pain can feel a little bit better. And then the body can start to kind of land and be there and receive information. So I tend to do body work with them each day. But what's really important, and the most important, because fascia changes very fast, it can change in an instant, it can change within 30 to 90 seconds, yeah? But remember, it's hardwired to listen to all the messages of the mind. So whatever they are unconsciously thinking, or whatever their thought patterns are, the tissue's going to respond again. So there you get the recurrence. So that is what takes the time. Them discovering, and then we go through this exploration of themselves, of actually where is their tension held in the body, and being with that tension, and seeing if they can come to a place where that tension starts to either change, morph, release, or let go. And often in that, all the different emotions that are held in that tension, or the different thought patterns, or the different circumstances start to come to light, and the meaning is given. We don't search for it. It's like, oh God, I just felt this huge wash of sadness, or, so we start to uncover some of the patterns that have been held in the tissue, which have then become an illness or a chronic pain. So that is a process of teaching them to introcept, to be more introceptive with themselves, to go and feel themselves on the inside, to body scan, to notice, to start to become more self-aware. And I have different sheets and different mind exercises, different mindful introceptive exercises, and different question exercises, so we can start to understand where the mindset is, so that we can see what is the thinking process that is driving this.
What is the trigger points?
What are the trigger points? What is the drive here? What is the belief system that these people are living under, which the body has had to adapt to keep them and survive. So we look at mindset, we look at health set, we look at heart set, and we look at soul set. We look at all those things and actually how we can reset. So everything is we're resetting things. so that the body can start to organize itself again. And often we'll, if it's appropriate, we'll go into some movement connections so that they can start to loosen the tissue, to stretch the tissue, to release the tissue. So it's a combination of body work on the table, movement, exploration of the mind, and attitudinal alignment to start to align their emotional body and start to bring them back to themselves. So it's a reconnection back to kind of what is their why, what is their purpose, what do they stand for in life? Because often what makes us sick is when we're banging on the wrong door. We've gone down the wrong pathway. We've gotten stuck, and this causes illnesses. I mean, this is what causes diseases and pain. And so it's really, really getting them back to themselves. Who are they? What do they want? What is their purpose here? And that's the kind of model that it takes.
Exactly.
Anything else you want to add? You have what else on the table here? Any other questions you guys want to jump in here? No?
Well, I just wanted to speak to what Karin's talking about, just to give an example. I was not in her 3-day intensive thing, but I was able to work with her over several years. And coming to see Karin, I had had a stressful life, like all of us, and then some trauma as well. And I am a movement teacher. I feel like I'm a pretty good mover, but I had low back pain, and I didn't realize the tension that I was holding. I mean, I didn't even know, even though every day I would move, I'd work out, but I was even moving with that tension, which is basically blocking my own self. And for an example, I didn't realize that I squeezed my glutes like most of my waking time, and probably when I was asleep too. And that was a direct response from what had happened in my life. And so it was a process for me. First of all, the realization that's what I was doing, and then changing that pattern. Finding out what were the triggers that caused me to grip, that grip is a way to support myself when I feel threatened. And then finding that really didn't serve me anymore, that I was able to move better, I was able to be less stressed, I was more rested, just by finding that pattern and then thinking about a different way. But a lot of it for me was just that, becoming aware that I was actually doing it, and no back pain anymore. For years and years, no back pain. So that's just a specific example.
So, Joe, do you have people coming to you? Have they stumbled upon or found, or people in Houston are talking more about the fascia, and people come to you in your studio and worked with you on this?
For sure. I've had a couple of clients that have had disc issues. They've been told they should never flex their spine and then extend their spine ever again, and to call the doctor when they're ready to have surgery. That was probably about 7 years with one specific client. I think he's thrown that phone number away. He now does flip turns in the swimming pool, happily, gladly. Not with he didn't start by just throwing away that caution, but he took that caution, and we worked on opening the body before we ever sort of teased with the idea of, well, what does that mean? And he's able to touch his toes now. Big deal. His swim time is faster. He almost teaches me more than I teach him now. And to me, that's kind of the goal. So, and that's one example of a number.
So how do we get the word out? And I know in our place of employment, I haven't really heard too much. I mean, other than we have conversations at home, but how do we get the word out, or how am I not hearing about it in Houston? You know what I mean?
Good question.
How can that happen? I guess more shows like this, right?
More shows, more people, maybe more of the qualified teachers offering maybe free talks, just small talks in their studios for the clients' friends, so the client can bring their friends, persuade their family just to come in and listen. It's all in the end becomes a word of mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised you haven't heard about it, but I'm not surprised at the same time.
Well, I mean,
because it's not yet fully mainstream. Some places it's a much bigger conversation, but it's still not mainstream. We're at the beginning of something so huge, and for those that are in it, it feels huge. But in relation to where it is and its evolution and where we are, it's still small. It's huge but small. Do you know what I mean? And at the moment, they're doing what we call what they're calling a fascia plastination project in Germany. And body works that traveled around, and it was missing the fascia. So they're doing a whole fascia body works, which they're going to travel around. Now that's going to be enormous because that's going to be open to the public. People are going to be able to go and see these amazing embalments, these amazing dissected fascial bodies or not connected bodies by the fascia. So that's going to really open eyes because they can see it, they can understand it, it's obvious. Kids can go, education can go, schools can go. So I think that's going to be huge.
Well, I would think that there's so many fields that could lean into this. Obviously, the medical field, right, and also the fitness field. But also, I think that the masseuse can very easily. Are any of them very aware of this or jumping on? Yeah, because that would a natural for me to think that would be a great field to jump on.
Yeah, the masseuse, absolutely. We get a lot of them coming to the workshops, to the touch workshops, and even the osteopaths and the chiropractors and the people who are already manual therapists and are learning how to suddenly bring this new information into what they do. Because it can infuse into anything you do. I mean, what we want is to have a universal language so that it's not the osteopath uses fascia and the chiropractor doesn't, so that it's of the body and it's understood that whatever you do, if you look through that fascial lens, you're going to see what you're doing from another perspective. But it doesn't mean you have to change what you
Right.
You don't have to not be the osteopath, but you're seeing it through a fascial lens now, and you're seeing much more scope and potential for what you can do and what's happening.
Yeah. Sure.
But also for a client in any fitness, bodybuilders, weightlifters, anybody changing their mindset that it shouldn't, you don't have to feel a burn always and be sore the next day. It's like that what people still want. They want to feel a burn. They want to exhaust themselves all the time. Yeah, I like to do that
but
myself.
Whatever you do, you're going to get a different effect. So depending on the effect you want, you'll do something different, and that's okay. Some people, need that
Outlet,
they want that structure right now until they realize it's not serving them. But most people have to realize for themselves that it might not be a long-term solution, but they still want it today.
Yeah.
So the fascia is that adaptable that, your clients are going to want different things from it. The golfer needs something different than the sprint runner, than the yoga teacher, than the bodybuilder. But they can still all work fascially conscious of fascia, and in a way to use it to its maximum. So it doesn't mean that everybody has to suddenly go this one way, because fascia is of the body. And I think as soon as we realize it's just every part of the body, every part of the body. Bone is even fascia, blood is even fascia. It's just a different density. And that changes the way people think about it. It's not an addition to the body.
I think you can also, I want to speak to, wanting to feel sort of that burn, that fitness idea. Something that I absolutely adore is being able to actually do all of these advanced repertoire exercises from the Pilates world with ease. And it's not about not working. It's just getting organized within your own system so that all of a sudden it can feel effortless. And again, that can happen. Not that I'm a runner, but that could happen when you're running. That should be able to happen when you're doing any kind of movement. It's not about it being soft movement. It's about your tissue adapting to what you're asking it to do. I mean, working with the dancers at Houston Ballet, they weren't just going and getting on stage and being a blob, but they work fascially in the Pilates repertoire, and they're working fascially on stage. So it's not that you don't get to do this huge output. The thing is, you can do these huge things without exhausting yourself.
Efficiently.
You're looking for becoming an efficient animal. again. We have separated ourselves from that with society and with all the industry and electronics. And what we're trying to do is bring ourselves back to the ability to adapt to our environment and what it requires.
Well, there's an awful lot there. There's a whole lot in this. I'm always so, I don't know, impressed with all this information. And well, what I'd like to do is quickly go around the table again and just where people can find you. So you have no, okay, you're going to skip? Okay, Laura, go ahead.
I'm at River Oaks Country Club, so not available to the whole world.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So Joe, you're in the Heights, and tell people how they can find you.
You can find me on the website pilatestreehouse.com. We are literally in the heart of the Heights.
Mm-hmm. And Karin, how can people find you more personally, and also the website again, so they can look into more of that? And you have some amazing videos. We pulled one up here. We didn't show it today, but where they can find that's actually on the website as well. So tell everybody a little bit about that.
Yeah, so well, I'm based in Dubai, but I do travel a lot. But you can find the information about myself and my sessions and my intensive sessions on the website www.centerforspatialmedicine.com, where you can contact through to my office, and then they will pass that on to me, and we can start to communicate from there. You'll also get the schedule on there for different events, workshops. We want everybody who's got a body, which is everybody, to come to these workshops. They're not.
We don't want the people that don't have bodies.
No.
You know, those are boring people. They're so boring. Those people.
They're relevant to all of you.
Yes.
You know, you don't have to be a professional. You don't have to be somebody who works with a body. You know, if you're interested in taking responsibility for your well-being, your health, and bettering yourself, turn up, because it's relevant to all of us. And that's what we love. And you'll find the schedule on the website, and different videos and things that you can listen to, and gain some more information, and some great blogs that our wonderful faculty have written, and some of our students have written their experiences. So read the blogs, get some kind of personal experience through that.
And can you just quickly touch on your upcoming workshop in 2020?
Yeah, in February 8-9, I'm back in Houston with Mind Over Fascia, which is where we're really going to look at how the thought process is affecting our tissue and our health and our physiology. And it's very practical. All the workshops are very experiential and practical, and it's you're learning through your own experience of your own tissue reacting to your own thought patterns, so that you can kind of immediately take some tools away with you to work with and to play with and to explore and to better and to be amazed by. And so we give some of the background and the information, the fascia information and the science behind it, but then it's all experiencing to really understand what are the messages that your body's listening to have gotten it to where it is today, and how can you change that. Awesome. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming in and sharing your expertise with us again today, and again go back to episode 90, I believe it was 99, and listen to the original podcast. So if you want more information there, and also the websites that were just mentioned. So I want to thank you all for coming in, and Jay and Monica, thanks for making this all happen and pushing all the buttons. Again, I want to thank our sponsors real quick: Dunkin' Coffee, Aceway Incorporated, Texas Beef Council, Escoffier School of Culinary Arts, and the American Culinary Federation. So again, we will be at the American Culinary Federation in Orlando, so be looking for those shows. If you're going to be in Orlando, come check us out and jump on the show if you'd like. And also go to our YouTube channel, and that's the Recipe Podcast on the YouTube channel, and you can see all of our shows, or most of the shows there, and also our other Fascia show was on there as well. So I think I got it all. Did I say it all? Jay, you recorded? You pushed the record button, right? You got it. All right, good. So, all right, guys, I appreciate it, and thanks for popping in on today's show. Remember, you're specially great. Make an impact on someone's life today. Thank you. See you next time.